Okay, what we have here is a new watering system for the mini cool cab and cool cab, our automated cabinets. Now we switched over from the Hydro Heart and we have this new system, and the reason being this new system has a lot of benefits and advantages that the old one didn't. Namely, we have the first thing that we'll talk about is an automatic fill and drain system. What we have here with this tube, there's a quick valve here. When the system's normally operating, if you want to drain the system, you just open this valve and water will come shooting out of this end. Now what this is actually a garden hose attachment that you can lock in or take it right off. And this screws onto your garden hose and basically pops right in here to lock. And you can actually take your garden hose and fill the system up, or in reverse drain it to the garden hose. Or you could take this tube, put it to a 5-gallon bucket, drain it, and fill it manually if you want. But this is just to make life easy for those people that are doing water changes every 10 to 14 days like you should. Again, you do water changes that frequently so you don't have nutrient imbalances and to basically prevent toxic buildup in the water as well. So again, this is the quick drain system for maintenance. With each of these sites, you can see here we have 4 in the back, 5 in the front. That's 9 sites total. And then we have our controller and our automatic backup system. Now, we'll talk about the sites first and then we'll talk about these units. Now, at each site you have a net pot, which we fill with Hydroton, which is those red clay pellets, and the organic starter plug that sits right in the top of the unit, and that's for seed germination. Now, if you have a bare root plant, and we have videos that go into this more in depth, but you take the rooted plant, put it in there, surround it with the red clay pellets, and then it sits right in the water. And this is actually a deep water culture system. What that means is that the roots are submerged in water and there's bubbling action going on. There's oxygenation of the water. And this system also recirculates the water. These tubes at the bottom that you can see here are basically 1.5-inch pipe. And the way it works is they're all sealed with these special grommet fittings. And this comes all pre-built, so you don't have to do anything with this particular system. It's all pre-made. But basically there's no water leakage. They all connect together, so everything acts as a complete circuit. And there's a water pump in here that pumps water through each one of these sites. And there's little jets that we'll show you. If you look down at the top, we'll peel this back so you can see. There's little jets in here that actually disperse water that blow into each one of these sites that basically evens it out in terms of fertilizer and in terms of pH, so it always keeps the water balanced and oxygenated. There's also automatic oxygenators, bubblers at each site as well, so there's always bubbling action going on in here when this unit's fully up and operational and filled with water. So your roots again are submerged in water. That water is balanced out with the fertilizer, pH, and oxygen, through this automated system. There really is not a whole lot you have to do. The reason we use pipes that are this big is because when these plants, when you have full-size 3-4 foot tall plants in here, you will have a fairly sizable root ball, and these very large connectors prevent there from being root clogging and having any sites overflow or having any kind of lockout. So that's why it's designed the way it is. Now let's go over here and talk about the controller and the pump. Your system comes with a high quality 2-outlet air pump that basically oxygenates 1/4-inch tubing that's running through each one of these sites. That unit there just sits on top of your backup reservoir, and you can just move it to the side whenever you need to access it, or we might have a little hook here so you can hang it in the front. But anyways, that's fairly simple. This unit here, this tub is your backup reservoir, and inside it there's a very small water pump. That water pump pumps water out of this site and down into the main controller. There's a float valve in this controller that I'll show you in a second, and whenever the water level gets below the ideal mark on these net pots, is because the plants are absorbing the water or because of evaporation, it automatically pulls fresh water from this backup reservoir and balances everything out. So normal day-to-day operation, what that means is instead of having to top off each one of these sites with a small watering can, you just top off this one up top, you lift the lid and just pour some water in here, and it'll automatically balance everything out. That is a very nice feature that people don't realize, because one of the major problems that people have with hydroponics is when their water level, if you can imagine one of these containers being full of water, if the water level drops in half, if your pH and let's say your fertilizer started on a scale of 1 to 10, it was at a 5 when this container was full of water. It becomes a 10 when the water evaporates and that fertilizer concentrates. Okay, so it prevents these rapid fluctuations that give people trouble. That is a really important thing to keep in mind and why we designed it the way we did. Now back here we have our main controller, which you won't have to really access for the most part, but we'll show you for the sake of the video so you can understand what's going on. And in here we have a water pump that's pumping water through the whole system. We have this automatic float valve here that's hooked up to a special power switch that turns that water pump up high on and off. And then we have a little hole on the side that orange tubing goes into for the backup reservoir. That just sits down in there. There's a little bit of extra tubing so that way you can move the top container without causing a problem if you have to adjust it. And this whole unit is powered. You can see right here there's 3 connectors marked 1, 2, and 3. Now those you can easily snap apart or snap back together if you want to move the water pump or replace it if it ever breaks after a couple years. But that's automated. All you have to do, it's got the cord already run through it, it's plugged in, it basically automatically goes right off the bat. You don't really have to do much of anything. So this system is nice and automated and very user friendly, and it works extremely well. There's really no issues with it at all, so that's why we've changed and switched over to this system, which we're calling the Baby Bloom Bucket.